Hello, this video is part of the Wavelength Seminar 2020 and I'm going to talk about how you could use story cubes to help with songwriting. My name is Paul Carroll and I'm a lead artist on the Quench Arts project Wavelength. I'm going to be talking about some of the activities you can use with story cubes and how they help to meet the aims and objectives of Quench Arts projects. If you need some background about Quench Arts, then find them on Facebook. There's loads of other blogs and videos and posts that tell you a bit more about what the company aims to achieve and the kind of groups that we work with. So what are story cubes? I've got some here. Here's the box. Inside are 9 dice with different pictures on. And each side of the dice has a different picture. Now for some of these activities that I'm going to talk about today, you could use any pictures. This is Dixit, and it comes with a big pack of cards with all sorts of amazing, creative pictures. Those two are quite similar. Beautifully drawn, very inspiring. Or you could download pictures from the internet, some unusual pictures. And what we're trying to do is start the creative process with these pictures. You could also use newspaper clippings, magazines, but what I really like about the story cubes is that they're so tactile. They even make a nice sound when you're moving them in your hand and rolling them. There are 9 of them, so they can be handed out, and there are lots and lots of pictures, so the element of chance is more. Not everyone's going to get the same picture. So these can be handed out to different people. Each person can roll the dice and get a different picture, come up with a different song lyric in relation to that picture. So what activities could we use these story cubes for? One idea could be to hand the cubes out. Maybe 1 each, 2 each, depending on how many people are in the group. Each person rolls the dice and they interpret that into a song lyric. Now, a word about sharing ideas in a group. Depending on how the group are with confidence, maybe they're happy with calling out their ideas. But if you've got some people who might be a bit underconfident with sharing ideas in front of people, then I sometimes use a hat and small pieces of paper so people can write their ideas anonymously, put them in a hat, mix them all up, and then pick out one. And then they're not reading their own thing, so they're not necessarily bearing their soul. So once you've got a series of words, the task could be to write a song that includes all of those words, or as many of those words as possible. You could even structure them into an order, so each word has got to be on a different line. Now what we're trying to do is just start the process and narrow down the possibilities rather than working with a completely blank slate. So the story cubes can produce 9 words straight away, and then you move on to the next step how to put those words into a sentence, and then how to order those sentences into a possible poetic structure. So that's an example of how you could use the story cubes to write an entire song. Another way of using it in that way would be to follow the instructions on the box. They've got some nice, simple visual instructions. Throw the dice. Look at the pictures on the dice. Put the pictures into an order that could tell a story. And that could help with the structure of a song. And within the song you could tell that story. Now, another way I've used the story cubes in the past is in a warm-up at the beginning of a songwriting session. Now, that part of the session is when people have just arrived. Maybe they're feeling a little bit quiet. Maybe they're feeling a little bit asleep. Maybe they've had a long day. So it's a chance for everyone to focus and start sharing ideas, start the brain working creatively. Just making a noise with their voices. So one of the warm-ups that I sometimes play at the beginning of activity is word association. Now, word association is just a group of people who take it in turns to say a word based on the word that they've just heard. Yeah, you might know it already. Now that's fine, except the first word. How do you come up with the first word? And so the group leader could come up with the word every time. But it's nice to offer out the opportunity for each person to start that game. So to help with that, you could use the story cube. So if I'm not sure what word to say to start the game, then I can roll the cube, and I've got a tree. So straight away, everyone's starting reacting to that word in turn. So person who started the games offering their idea, it's been narrowed down by the story cube, and we've started the group talking. Another warm-up that I've used the story cubes for is just a simple story writing process at the beginning of a session. Now, the story may not lead into the song itself, but it's just an opportunity for the individuals in the group to start thinking creatively. And the way I've used the cubes for this is everyone takes it in turns to roll all the cubes, and it does rely on everyone having some kind of device for capturing photos, which is often the case, or people can share a friend's. So you roll the dice, you take a picture of the pictures that you got, and then the next person rolls the dice, next person rolls the dice, next person rolls the dice. Everyone takes a pen and paper away and works individually, or possibly in pairs, and just writes a story using the story cubes as they were meant to be used. And then everyone comes back together and optionally, if they feel comfortable doing so, shares the story. So whether or not the person shares their story doesn't really matter, because the point is that people have gone away and they've started interpreting what they see into some kind of creative task. It may be that their story could be shared by somewhere else. We could again use the hat thing, where the stories are thrown into a hat and shared out and then passed out again. It just really depends. But the important thing is that the sharing within the group is optional. And this idea of working individually, it puts people less on the spot. So whereas sometimes we might work in an open group and everyone's shooting out ideas and we're writing them up on a flip chart, it just gives a different element of someone contributing to a creative process, but on their own terms. They can contribute as much or as little as they want to, it takes the pressure off, and it evens it out. Sometimes you get more creative input from a quiet person when everyone's working individually, and the more confident people might put more ideas out there in a group discussion sort of situation. So those are a few ideas that you could use story cubes for to help with songwriting. I'm sure you can come up with your own creative ideas as well. I hope you have fun with it. Just to finish off, I'll just say a few things about the aims of the Wavelength project and how the story cubes can help us meet those. The aims of the Wavelength project are to raise self-esteem, to improve relationships in a positive way with peers, and to also provide an opportunity for people to express themselves. And I think with the story cubes, they are very inspiring creatively. The idea of sharing them out and working individually increases the chance of some of the quieter ones contributing to the task. And when people are contributing ideas that are valued by the group, it can improve relationships, it can raise self-esteem, and of course at Wavelength people are always being creative because we write original songs. Now, one key aspect of Wavelength activities is when people are contributing ideas, there's never a right or wrong answer. And if we can establish that as a precedent, we can make people feel safe within the creative environment, safe within a group environment as well. Take, for example, this lightning bolt. You could look at that and you could say lightning, which would be a great song lyric. Or maybe you could say fast, or maybe you could say weather. All sorts of ideas. The important thing is that the person who's got that piece of that picture is being acknowledged for their idea. Therefore, if they're contributing more ideas, they're feeling safer, and so they're expressing themselves more, and they're feeling more valued as a group. So thank you for watching this video. We've seen a few ideas that story cubes could be used to help with the songwriting process in a group situation, and we've talked a little bit about how they can help meet the aims of a community project like Wavelength. Have a look at some of the other videos on the Wavelength Seminar 2020 and enjoy using story cubes.